Hey. Welcome to another episode of After the Buzzer Sports Podcast, where we talk about the hottest topics in the world of sports. I'm your host, Lee Jones. Hey, what's going on? I'm with as always, my road dogs, my co-host, Mr. Basketball, the Hall of Famer, Mr. Marvin Owens. What's up, Marv?
What's good, fellas? What's good?
Hey, and then I also can't miss saying the sports information director of Regent University, Mr. Chris Sawyer. What's up, Chris?
What's up, guys? Good morning.
Hey man, we got some extremely hot topics today. You'll see the rundown on the screen. I want to get these guys' opinion about these topics because they're hot. They're hot. They're hot. We're gonna jump right into it. First topic: the Memphis Tigers. Penny Hardaway ran into a bit of a losing streak. I wanted to find out from my guys and get their thoughts about one, the Tigers as a whole, their unit this year, 15-6 right now, loses of four straight games, and Coach Penny Hardaway. Your thoughts on it? And I have to start off with the Hall of Famer, former University of Alabama point guard, Mr. Marvin Owens. Marv, the Memphis Tigers, Coach Penny Hardaway. Give me your thoughts about the team, and then tell me about Coach Hardaway as a coach.
I took some time to think about this, trying to go back to being as a player and then what I see on the floor right now with Memphis. And I don't know what their identity is. That's the thing that jumps out to me. The turnovers, of course, have been a big factor in this losing streak that they've had. They've committed a lot of turnovers, which is uncharacteristic of Quinterly. He came from Alabama. So I'm a little bit surprised about that, but I don't know what their identity is. And I think that Memphis at this point right now is a victim of the transfer portal, right? Like, we can talk about bringing in players and using it to your benefit, but in college basketball, there is a such thing as culture. And you got to have guys that have been around that know what your identity is and what you're trying to do. I think they transferred in 8 new guys, if I'm not mistaken, or 9 new guys, if I'm not mistaken, and they lost 8. That's a lot. And to come into a season and try to gel together to become a basketball team that's effective, that's really, really hard to do. Different playing styles, different agendas. There are agendas in college basketball. Players have them themselves. So you saw them start off to a quick start. I think they beat, who was that? Missouri and Texas A&M and VCU. They got to the finals of the Atlantis. I mean, they looked great early on, but you know what happens when you get into conference play? Film, tendencies, all those things start to play a part, right? And they're taking away a lot of things that Memphis did early in the season and Memphis is encountering. But the turnovers is a big bugaboo for them. They got to figure out a way to take care of the basketball. And, I can't really get my finger on this whole who's the guy that they let come back? Was it David Jones or the guy that he brought back on the team?
The center.
I think that the center.
The big center
and I
from
think
Louisiana.
And there's a lot of guys on the team that didn't feel like he should be back. And they've even said some of them go into a huddle and they come back out and they all have different agendas. They all running different sets. They all running different plays. So that's a problem. I've been part of that. I've been part of a college basketball team with excellent players. And when you look at a coach and you don't feel like he's a leader for you, you don't play hard. You don't have an agenda. You don't have an identity. And it shows when you get out on the court. So I think that's the biggest thing that they're going through right now. I don't think they know how to play well together yet, and they got to kind of try to figure that out now.
Well,
in terms of,
I heard you say something. Hold on. I heard you say something in your little rant. It was good. And I agree with some of the things you said, but I heard you say one thing that piqued my interest. You said a coach that wasn't a leader. Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah, that's what I said. So,
expand on that a little bit for me.
I've gone through that. I went through that at the University of Alabama when there was a coach who took over for Wimp Sanderson, who everybody loved and believed in. And some guys aren't meant to be head coaches. I'm not saying Penny's not meant to be a head coach, but right now the product on the floor is that of a lack of coaching, a lack of an identity, a lack of a message. Like, these kids are going to follow him. And if you're getting different messages from your head guy, and even in his comments he made a comment, he don't know what's going on. He don't know if they're watching social media too much, if they're trying to get more shine. He made comments that it was like all on these 18 to 22, 23-year-olds and not on his coaching style and not on what he's putting out on the floor and not the product that he's coaching. Like, that's on you. That ain't on those kids. Like, I don't care what you say, but if you in a press conference and you trying to blame everything on these kids, And then I go out and I look at that product on the floor. It looks like kids that's not coached. They have no identity on the basketball floor.
I'm gonna dive into that in a minute. Chris, what are your thoughts about the Tigers and Coach Penny Hardaway?
Well, you're going to be coming to both me and Marv because Marv made a lot of points I was going to make. Number one, I'm going to add to one of those schools, Marv, in the early day, the 10-2 days, they beat Virginia, who now is playing lights out. They've improved, and that was a big win for Memphis. I think two things. I didn't like what he said either. I don't know what's going on. It does go down to coaching. And I'll tell you this, being in this industry, even when the players are doing something, every AD I've ever been around has said that is your job to fix it. And if they're not doing something and you're not fixing it, then there's an issue with your position. Look at one of the comments one of the players made. I think it was the January 25th game. He said they just came out and went against the game plan that Hardaway did. So you got to blame some of it on the kids, but why are they doing that? And the other point that you made that I was going to make too, bringing that center back, they said not only were they against it, but evidently I think the last 2 weeks they said there's been some issues in the locker room as well with that player. So I don't know. They're just not playing together. But Hardaway's got to say we're gonna figure it out. I think just saying I don't know what to do. I don't know what's going on. That to me. I just don't like a coach saying that. Lee, I'm going to defer to you because you're the Memphis guy. But I'm just telling you, I think a coach, even if it's on the players, on the players, he's got to figure out a way to get them together.
And before Lee goes, I want to throw this out because we got some Memphis people here, right? I know Lee is a big Memphis guy. I know we got other people's listening. If you watch this team, tell me, Lee, what's the identity of this basketball team? Because if I watch Tennessee, if I watch Alabama, if I watch Duke, even if they don't win, I know what their identity is. If I watch Tennessee, they're going to bust their ass on defense all game. And they brought in 1 or 2 transfers that make a difference. They didn't bring in 8 because you can't create a culture like that. But you bring in 1 or 2 that can create a difference and you play to your identity. Alabama, they're going to shoot the 3, they're going to penetrate, and they're going to defend. I'm going to get that every game. I don't know what I'm going to get from Memphis. So Memphis guys, let me know.
Well, hey, okay. Mark, Lee's about to jump out of the screen here. I can't.
No, I'm good. I'm good because you said some things. Both of you said some things that are true. Once they lost Caleb Mills, they lost their defensive identity. He was the defensive guy. He was the ball pressure guy. He got after people. He set the tone defensively for the Memphis Tigers. So I agree with you there. Marv, you hit a good point about the transfer. Bringing a lot of transfer ins, you have to mesh, especially if they're seniors. They've been other places. Getting them to mesh, that is – 8 is a lot. 8, 9 players coming in is a lot of players. So defensively, they haven't played up to their potential. That's why you saw all of the close games. And so I agree with that. But you guys y'all are so far off base. It's unreal on Penny Hardaway. Let's first of all, for you to say he's not a natural born leader, Marv, the guy is an NBA Hall of Famer.
That ain't got nothing to do with coaching.
No. He was a point guard who led NBA teams to greatness. So leadership can't be questioned.
Some of the best guys I know, some of the most talented guys I played with are terrible at coaching because they expect those kids to be able to do what they can do, and it don't happen.
Well, I get it, but the leadership first, he has the quality. He has the leadership qualities in him.
His leadership was never questioned when he was in Orlando. His leadership was never questioned.
When he was in Orlando. Yes,
it was never questioned. Shaq and them never questioned his leadership and his toughness when he was an NBA player.
Shaq didn't question his leadership. Them playing together was the issue, and who was the alpha dog, but never questioned his leadership and ability to run the team. Marv, that's blasphemy right there. The other thing is, Marv, the guy has won 20 games every season he's been at Memphis for the past 5 seasons. He's won 20 games every year, so now he's not a leader. They're going through a little struggle right now. They've lost 4 straight. That is absolutely true. And the fact that he has a chemistry problem on the team is certainly true. But his leadership qualities, and sometimes you have to make those jabs in the media to put it back on the players because it is a player thing right now. You don't go 15-2 in your first 17 and beat the likes of the teams that you beat and then now lose 4 straight and not have chemistry problems, issues. I will say I think Penny is playing both of his sons a little bit too much right now during the season, especially down the stretch, because I think there are better players that can finish the game for Memphis. But defensive intensity is their biggest problem. Identity, I'll give you that, Mark. But the question, Penny, the man has won 69% of his games. 69% of his games at Memphis. There's no way his coaching ability. Now, he's a quiet coach. I get it. But if you've ever, and I have attended Memphis's practices, they're practicing, they're running NBA drills. He's teaching, he's pointing out. He got Rick Stansberry on his staff. They have an excellent coaching staff. All of this, a lot of this is on the players, Mark, and not Penny Hardaway.
You just mentioned Rick Stansberry. He was the coach at Mississippi State when I played at Alabama. We used to bust their butt religiously. So I don't know if Rick Stansberry is necessarily the guy that you need to bring up in terms of coaching prowess. I mean, maybe he had a good career, but he won. And Mississippi State had some dogs. They had Dan Pierre. They went to a Final Four. But let's not act like Rick Stansberry is the end-all, be-all. Second, let me make one more point about
Go ahead. I love it. Go ahead.
So you brought in 8 transfer portal guys, right? You don't rank in the top 10 in transfer portal additions. Like you didn't even rank in the top 10 with the guys that you brought in to make a difference on the team that you have. Like, how do you transfer in 8 people and you're not in the top 10 of the transfer portal at the beginning of the season ranking? Like, how do you do?
200 NCAA teams.
Kansas brought in. I mean, but you a blue blood, right? We're not talking about North Dakota State. We talking about Memphis. We talking about John Calipari, Derrick Rose, who was the guy, the Dana Altman. We talking about those cats that used to coach at Michigan. Y'all are blue bloods. You can't bring in 8 guys and not be in the top 10 and into the rankings.
The fact that they're not in the top 10 is irrelevant in this issue. David Jones
obviously
is a ball.
It's not. Obviously it's not irrelevant because if you was top 10, have you seen Kansas go on a 5-game losing streak? Have you seen Alabama go on a 5? Have you seen Tennessee?
Alabama, come on, give me a break on Alabama. Alabama's terrible. But let me say this. You still haven't told me why Penny Hardaway is not a great coach. 5 straight, 20-win seasons, 2 NCAA appearances in the last 3 years. Why isn't he a great coach? Coaching and players matter. Coaching and players matter. Players, and I'll give you the fact that the transfers have not meshed away. Now, it's a lot of ego there. It's a lot of these kids thinking that they are NBA talent, and it's coming out in the locker room. I've said it, and I'll continue to say it. Shorten your rotation. Get it down to 8 solid players, the ones that want to play both ways on the court, and then play and start to turn this thing around. Memphis is not dead yet. Teams go on 3 and 4 game losing streaks, Mark. Kansas has lost to it. Kansas lost early in the week to a subpar. It happens. But the question is Hardaway's ability to coach. That's ridiculous. Chris, you have any follow-up?
No, I mean, Marv just said what I was going to say. You can't lose to Rice. Rice was ranked, 246 in the NCAA net. And you not only lost to him, you lost to him at home. And it's a conference game.
It happens. It happens.
I know it happens. And I'm not, again.
Not Penny Hardaway and the great coach.
Yeah. But
what about your coach at Alabama, Mar? The one that lets all the players shoot up everybody and then have guns. What about this? What about your coach at Alabama? They haven't lost straight games.
We're talking about coaching right now. See, now you're moving the goalposts. You're making this a different conversation.
Penny Hardaway
he's won the SEC championship 2 years running now. So I would say that makes him. Okay, well then let's juxtapose that to Memphis. You said Penny's you say Penny's a 20-game winner every year and did what in the NCAA. What he got to show for
it? Hey, lost to Gonzaga 2 years ago by 4 points. I lost to Gonzaga. I'll give him that. But he's went as far as Alabama has, and you saying how great Alabama and their coach is winning the SEC.
Chris, I think Lee moving the goalposts again. I didn't say anything about great. I said you know what their identity is. That's what I said. So we don't know what Memphis's identity is. And then you're talking about a great leader. If you're talking about a great leader, then a great leader gets guys to buy in. You talking about they not buying in. They got different agendas. They got all this going on. So a great coach gets buy-in from players. A great
You're not
coach he puts a game plan out for them to know how they need to get to the next level. That's not what he's doing then. Obviously, if they don't have buy-in.
You're not, Marv, you can't change out the players mid-season. You can't change out what you can do is tighten that rotation up, set some of their butts on the bench, the ones that are not listening to you, and tighten that rotation up. That's what Penny has to do. But for you and Chris to say that Penny is not a great coach, the history doesn't tell you that.
Hey, no, I didn't say
what. A 20-game winner for 5 straight years, 2 NCAA appearances, won 69% of his games. How can you say that he's not a great coach at Memphis? He's 126-58. That's ridiculous. What you're saying just doesn't make sense. It's ridiculous. That's all I'm saying. I'll give you the chemistry of Memphis. I'm going to give y'all that because they have to work on that, and he needs to do some things. Losing Caleb Mills cannot be overstated because he was the glue guy on the defense. But for you guys to say that he's not a great coach, give me a break. Give me a break. Any follow-up, I'm going to give y'all the last word because I can't believe, especially the Hall of Famers. See, that's what I'm talking about. He knows better. You know better, Mark.
I think Penny gets a lot of leeway just because he's Penny Hardaway. I don't think he's great at X's and O's. I think his team plays very undisciplined, and to me, that's coaching. So you're right, though. They got plenty of time to turn this around and get to where they want to be. All their goals are still in front of them, but the way that it looks right now, it looks like a team that's lost, and it looks like a team that is devout of any type of leadership on the floor and off. And then when your coach is saying he don't know what's going on, are they trying to get shine? Is it social media? That's just a bad look. That's just not what you do as a head coach.
It's the truth, and he's trying to get them to understand. And because you have a senior laden team, that's what he's trying to do. I enjoy what he's doing because he's trying to show them, guys, we're 15-2. This is what our downfall is, and it's from within, not from without, and you have that talent. So I actually like that in the way that he's coaching, and not necessarily because it's not X's and O's, Marv. They're not, to your point, defensive intensity is not there. They play in spurts in defense. They don't execute down the stretch. Even they called plays for game-winning shots, and they're going a different route. You got to tighten it up and set some of those guys on the bench that you brought in, and whether they quit the team or whatever, get you 8 players that want to play for you, and then I think Penny Hardaway will be just fine. But the notion that he's not a great coach, I can't buy that one. I can't buy that.
The beauty of this is that we get to see it play out. So I'm sure we can revisit this at a later time. But we're gonna see. We'll find out
when they're in the NCAA tournament and when they win the American. Let's go to our next topic, man. This already done got my blood pressure up. Where's my pills? I need to take another one. I got my blood pressure up already. Let's go to our next topic. Look, should the Dallas Cowboys make Dak Prescott this offseason the highest paid football player in the league? And first of all, before I want to go to you, Chris, guys, those of you that are online, please shoot us some comments. We want to hear from you on any of our topics. That Memphis topic was hot. Please give me your comments. Chris, this offseason, Dak Prescott, going into the 5th year of his contract, scheduled to make $59.4 million this year. Last year of a $160 million contract. Talks of an extension are out there. What should the Cowboys do, Chris?
Well, I know financially they have a cap problem, so doing something with Dak could certainly take some of that away. So I know they're looking at that. I mean, do I think it's going to happen? Yeah. I mean, it's Jerry. Jerry's Jerry. He's set in his ways. He kept McCarthy. He likes Dak. But here's my issue, and I hate to say the word, but people might get mad at me. But Romo, Romo had good regular seasons. Dak has had, to me, his best season ever. But in playoffs, of any quarterback that has started, I'm pulling out some stats for you, any quarterback that has started at least 5 playoff games of 7 games, he's 2-5 in the postseason. It's the worst in NFL history. I hate to say it, but yeah, I'm still mad about the Packers game. He's got to do something. In those games, he's had 14 touchdowns. His passer rating's been decent, 91.8, but 7 interceptions. And that's where he gets in trouble. I don't know what it is, getting on the big stage and he panics. But are they going to sign him? Yeah, they're going to do it. I mean, you look at Sean Watson, making a lot of money. A lot of these quarterbacks making money aren't doing a lot of the things Dak is doing. I think Jerry said we're all in, and he's gonna ride with them. Now I think, I don't know how long the contract's going to be, but I mean he's going to pay him. We don't really have any other options unless we're going to draft somebody. There's nobody out there right now that I've seen proposed trades and things like that, but Jerry's not going to do that with Dak. Not at all. I mean, that's just my 2 cents on it. I'm just very concerned about his playoff record. He's got to step up to be an elite quarterback. It's great to be, highest paid, but, I can go home to my mansion every night too and not succeed at work. But he's got to do something. And honestly, we're getting older, Lee. I can't you're on blood pressure medicine now. I mean, we're and I contributed a lot of it to Dallas. I mean, they are killing me. Yes, they will sign him. They will sign him.
Couple of things. I
think they're going to use his playoff stuff a little bit in negotiation, in my opinion.
Yeah. That I'll say this, and then I want Marv to go because I know that's going to be stanky. But Dallas is 2-5 in the playoffs. Dallas Cowboys are. Dak Prescott, short of especially this last game against Green Bay, he didn't give up 41 points. People want to blame Dak. Yeah, I know that the quarterback gets to shine, but he didn't give up 41 points. The Dallas defense did. The head coach of the Washington Redskins did. Go ahead, Mar.
I almost feel sorry for Cowboy fans, and I get Lee. I know you love Dak, and I wanted to see how you was going to defend him, and that was good. That was good for you to say the Dak Prescott didn't give up 41 points, but Dak Prescott sure as hell didn't help. And listen,
threw for 400 yards.
When it didn't matter. I like Dak, but let's. Yes, he's going to get the extension. Yes, he's going to get the money. Like we can go ahead and throw that out the window because what other choice does Dallas have? When you bring back McCarthy, that lets you know that they all in. They're pushing the chips all into the middle of the table, and this is who they're going to ride with, right? But Jerry Jones is 81 years old. Like he's got to get a Super Bowl. But here's what I question. I question the thought process in all this. Like you bring McCarthy back, and his whole sole purpose last year, Cowboys fans, was to establish a running game, right? He wanted to take some of the pressure off of Dak Prescott. He wanted to reestablish the running game and the physical nature of the Dallas Cowboys. But then you expect a scat back named Tony Pollard to be your bell cow for an entire NFL season. It doesn't make sense. Like, if that's what you wanted to do, hell, they would have been better off trying to find a way to get Zeke back just to take some of the pressure off of Dak. Like, Dak is who he is. This is going into year 9, okay? He is who he is. Everybody wants to make him an upper echelon quarterback, and his numbers say that he is. But quarterbacks are measured on championships and showing up in big moments. And we all know that he has not. He has come up short continuously, and he's broken your hearts. And I know you're trying to find every way to defend him. But I'm going to give you the recipe real quick, Cowboy fans. Here's what you need to do. Go and sign Dak. Get that extension, right? In this draft, go O-line heavy, right? Plug some holes, do some things that you need to do. And you know who you need to go out there and get for just the playoffs? You need to find a way to sign Derrick Henry. Yep. Find a way to get Derrick Henry in the backfield and run that ball 30 to 35 times when you get to the playoff game and make Dak only have to make about 5 or 6 big throws in a game to keep you advancing. If you want to run the ball, if you want to change your identity, because clearly Dak can't take you to where you need to go on his arm. Not saying he's a backcourt. Well, he hasn't. It's 8 years, Lee. You're going into year 9. Like, what is it going to be? Year 16 before you finally admit that Dak in the
dude led the league in touchdowns, Marv.
I don't care. But you got no Super Bowls. You got so is that enough for you? Is that enough for you? So I'm gonna stop my argument because if that's enough for you as a Cowboy fan, then you're right. You got me. Maybe that is enough. That he leads the league in passing and it looks pretty. And then when it comes to time for him to lead in the playoffs, he stinks. That's the bottom line. And take the pressure off of him. Go get a guy that can tote the rock for you because that's what you wanted to do. Get somebody that can tote the rock for you and handle the pressure and make Dak only have to make a couple throws and win games for you. That's your recipe.
Yeah, it's not about.
Hey, wait, I
throws.
gotta give a shout out to Sandra right there. Gave me a nice little comment. We got people commenting on this, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, but we appreciate that.
I don't necessarily agree with Sandra, but I thank her for chiming in. Ms. Keaton, keep talking with us. A couple things. Dak can make every throw in the NFL on the field, so it's not about making throws. It's not about mentality. Dallas's major problem with their team is that they have a simplistic game plan. It's way too simplistic. When you talk about the 2 interceptions that Dak threw, Chris, I'm going to revert back to you. Look at the route that Brandon Cooks ran. Hell, Alexander ran the route for him because they had advanced scouted them, and he came in and ran the route. Even on the pick 6, the D-back was right there. They knew the Dallas were going to throw the slant, came off, boom, pick 6. The reason I'm saying that is it's a simplistic game plan that they put together. Marv, I agree with you. Matter of fact, I know this probably to be the fact Derrick Henry will be a Cowboy next year. Everybody wants to play for the Cowboys, and he'll be a Cowboy next year. Now, the drafting of linemen, I think Dallas' first-round draft pick will be a lineman. The key is, do you want to bring back Tyron Smith or not? Tyron's going to miss 4 games a year. That's penciled that in. But when he plays, he's probably one of the best left tackles in football. But Marv, the notion that Dak Prescott can't win a Super Bowl, that's ridiculous. I mean, anybody that thinks that's ridiculous. You look at the guy's poise. This year was probably his best year in the NFL. It probably was his best year in the NFL. So and that game against Green Bay, come on, guys. Neither one of you, Chris or Marv, said anything about the defense in that game.
I was about to bring it up.
41 points. Every time Dak led them down the field, another touchdown for Green Bay. That did contribute to them losing the game. Personnel matters. Dallas have to get bigger at the linebacker. They have to get bigger on the defensive front. Then they'll start to stop the run. It's about the defense. I don't worry about Dallas's offense and Dak Prescott at all. Dak's going to do his thing. He's always done his thing. This undue criticism, I've never seen a quarterback that has been as criticized as much as Dak Prescott. I know why. He's the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, and throw in the fact that he's the African-American quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. So he's going to get a lot of criticism. I get that. And America's team always get criticism. They're always on the news. That's the way it goes. And he has to accept that, and he does. But the notion that he lost a game against Green Bay is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So when he plays well, he's not good. When he plays subpar, he's not good. And you always want to say Dak. Well, I'm saying defense is where Dallas has to go, and they'll get to where they want to go. Sign some free agents. That's the other thing that Jerry Jones doesn't do. He doesn't sign free agents. Devin White is a free agent from Tampa Bay. Get him to run that middle of your field. Get you some bigger defensive tackles to stop the run, and then you'll see a different Dallas Cowboy team. But Dak Prescott, he's going to get paid. He'll be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, the highest paid player in the NFL. They'll sign him for 4 to 5 more years, and within that 4 to 5 years, Dak Prescott will win a Super Bowl. Steve Young didn't win his Super Bowl. He has 1 Super Bowl. He won it, Marv, in his 10th year. Yet y'all put all these unrealistic, and Steve Young's in the Hall of Fame. Y'all put all these unrealistic expectations on Dak. Dak hadn't played well in some games in the play. Last year against Tampa Bay, he threw for 332 yards. No one said anything, but wait till the next game because you wanted to see him fail. It's a ridiculous expectation put on Dak Prescott, and go Dak, you'll get your money, and he will be I'll answer the question that we had. He will be the highest paid player in the league. Any follow-up?
So all I heard from Cowboys fan before the season started, and you in particularly, was about the Cowboys defense and how we were elite on all 3 levels. That's all anybody was saying. When our Alabama boy was back there, Diggs, Trayvon was intercepting everything and setting NFL records, and then you had the other guy. Then you had the line that was stopping the run earlier in the season. All I heard all season was how elite y'all were defensively. Okay, and then all of a sudden now, come on, man.
I've never
Like
said
this is the best. This is the best. That was the best Dallas have been defensively in a while. Let's not act like it isn't. But I've always said the same thing about Dak. I said it when he came out of Mississippi State. I never said Dak was a bad quarterback. I said he was average. And I said he's an average quarterback that will never take you to where you need to be on his own. Okay?
way above average, Mark.
He
Way
can't.
above.
Okay. All right. Well, his the games that he's won that matter says average to me. Okay. So and to say that he's the most criticized I remember Tony Romo getting pretty ripped apart as a Dallas Cowboy quarterback as well.
Tony Romo doesn't hold a candle to Dak Prescott.
No, I didn't say whether he held a candle to him. I said I remember Dallas Cowboy fans in the NFL ripping Tony Romo pretty bad too. So let's not act like Dak is the only one.
Never ripped him as much as Dak Prescott, Mark. Never.
But you're going into year 9. We're going into year 9, and you still have to defend Dak Prescott.
I'm not defending him.
You really are defending him. He's going to win. Then we want to bring up Steve Young. Well, Steve Young didn't win the year 10. Now we talking about Dak Prescott. We talking about the Dallas Cowboys putting everything around him to win football games, and when it matters, he's the smallest. That's what it is, and that's the epitome of being an average quarterback, where the lights are too big for you. And maybe it is the pressure of being the quarterback for America's team. It's easy when it don't matter, right? Like it's easy when nobody watch. It's easy during the regular season, but it's much harder when everything is on the line, when every throw matters, when it gets a little bit tighter. Everything matters then, and he always comes up short.
Dallas has come up short. I would not pin that on Dak Prescott. I would.
Well, we talking about Dak right now. We're not talking about the Cowboys as a team.
But you're quoting the Green Bay game. You're quoting this, and Marv, I'm quoting
all his games.
Dallas had an elite defense because I know better. You can't play championship football with 5 and 6 defensive backs on the field at one time, and your middle of the field is safeties that are 210 pounds. You can't play defense that way because they cannot hold up against the run. So you'll never win with a defense like that. Now, they do take the ball away and they do rush the passer, but there's a blueprint for Dallas to win games.
Hold on. Before you finish,
Dallas win games by getting an early lead and rushing the passer. If a team runs the football and controls time of possession the way Green Bay did, Dallas will lose a game. They have to get better at linebacker and up front.
Hey, Cowboys fans, how many games did y'all win this year?
We won 12. I'll answer for all Cowboy fans in America.
How many games did y'all win last year?
We won 12.
Prior to that,
12.
Probably about the same, right? So
right, absolutely.
So that would lead me to believe that you're pretty good, right?
Oh, we are. We're definitely pretty good.
To win 12 games a year in the NFL is no easy task. So that tells me that you're talented. That tells me that you've made the right moves to be successful in this league. So what's missing? What am I missing here? If you're winning 12 games a year for the last 4 or 5 years, what am I missing?
Think about
so now it comes down. Now it comes down to the point that, well, there's one area in which we're missing. Every team is deficient, right?
No,
and
not
it's up to, and that's why quarterbacks get paid all the money they get paid to do what? To cover up those deficiencies that you have. Patrick Mahomes, covering up all the deficiencies
from the sideline, Marv. I disagree with that. You can't cover up defensive deficiencies from the sideline. Dallas gave up. Man. Every team that beat Dallas this year ran the football on them, Marv. Every team that beat them ran the football on them. That's the Achilles heel. It's not Dak Prescott. That's the Achilles heel. Chris, I'm going to give you the last word because this guy here, man, he's a Cowboy hater. He's always been, and that's where he comes in. And let me say this. He hates that. Honestly, he hates Dak Prescott. SEC, I remember, and I know why. The year that Mississippi State beat Alabama. That's why he hates Dak Prescott. Go ahead, Chris.
I'm just sitting back here enjoying listening. No, you bring up the defense. I mean, let's think about it. How important is this defensive coordinator hire to build that defense? Lee, I agree with you on the linebacker. I mean, we've talked about that a lot this season. So I think it's very important that they get a good good DC in there. And I don't know. I heard a rumor they were going to interview Ron Rivera. Please don't do that. I mean, I don't know if Harris is ready. Al Harris. I don't know what they're going to do, but I just think that's going to be important because they'd have to shore it up. I agree. Offensive lineman is going to go, but I'm with both of you. Derrick Henry needs to be a Dallas Cowboy. I like Pollard. He's had some, he had some good runs this year, but I really liked him when he backed up Zeke and he would come in and spell him a little bit. And I think that hurt us a lot. I love Dak. I'm just trying to be honest on what I've read, but I'm diehard Dallas Cowboy fan. I always admit it. I just get frustrated with them. Just so frustrated. But that's all I got to say.
Physicality matters. Again, game planning matters. Dallas game plan is way too simplistic. They have to get back to being a physical running team. And that wasn't in the forte last year. So Marv, you are making some good points about game planning. It's just that, you have to make sure that when you run the football, it's an attitude. They don't have that attitude. That's why Pollard didn't have a great season. They need Derrick Henry. They will get Derrick Henry, but the defense is the key. And I look forward to the 2024 season. I look forward to the draft, and I look forward to free agency. But Marv's look. Don't let him. I like Dak Prescott. That's not true. That is not true. People do not believe Marv. That's not true. You don't like Dak Prescott. So let's go to our next topic. We're gonna fast it forward because America's team is always gonna be America's team. I'm gonna go back to you, Marv. Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers named the head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. They've got off to a kind of a slow start under Doc Rivers. And I really want to know, can he be the missing piece to get the Bucks to the NBA championship once again out of the East? What are your thoughts there?
No. I'm just going to be straight up with I've never seen anybody live off of one championship the way Doc Rivers does, with 3 Hall of Famers that probably any one of us could have went out there and coached to a championship. But listen, I'm not going to say that Doc's not a good coach. Everyone knows, and I got friends around the league. I got one of my roommates from college that coaches at Portland as an assistant coach. Everybody knows that he's not really good X's and O's. He's a motivational guy. He's a guy that can build rosters from a motivational standpoint, but he's not really good in game. I mean, case in point, let's look what happened in Portland the other night, right? You got my guys on the sideline for the Trailblazers and couldn't believe it that they had Damian Lillard inbound the ball and get it to Giannis when you're down 3, knowing, and they like, did they just give it to Giannis? Okay, we're gonna go on and foul him. Let's get this game over with. And foul Giannis, put him on the free throw line, and he misses both free throws, and the game is over. And there's other instances in that game that we could bring out, but Doc just is never. It was terrible. He's just never been good in game making adjustments. But it's just kind of crazy to me that Milwaukee felt that 30 games in second place, offensively pretty good, but their whole motto was that they weren't good enough defensively.
They're not.
And they're not going to be, unfortunately. Doc's not going to change personnel. Your personnel is what it is. And you let Drew Holiday go. And I understand they had a collapse last year against Miami and Butler went off on him and went crazy. But Drew covered up a lot of – Drew was elite defensively. Let's not – we can talk about his offensive game and other stuff, but he's 6'4", and he controls the perimeter most of the time. And he covered up for a lot of deficiencies they had last year on the perimeter. You bring Dame in, we know what we're going to get with Dame. Dame is a hell of a scorer.
No defense, Marv. No defense.
But he's not going to play. He's not wired. Defense is something that you got to be wired to play, and he's just not wired to play that. That's not who he is.
Did you give too much? Did you give up too much, Marv? You had a championship quality team, though. Yeah. Dame was a great offensive player. Not a defensive player at all. Not at all. At all.
You gave up too much. You know what I like in this trade too? Remember when Milwaukee gave up Ray Allen for a washed up Gary Payton back in the day? Remember that? I think this trade might be worse than that one was. And I love Dame, but to sit up here and act like you're going to get better defensively with that lineup, you got to hobble Chris Middleton. He's never going to be back to what he was. Let's just be real with that. Brook Lopez, he's a great rim protector, but you don't have the personnel to be better defensively. And coming out of the East, I mean, who are they better than right now in that top tier? Definitely not Philly with Maxey and the way that the way that Nick Nurse got them playing. Probably not better than New York at this point in time, especially if they, I just don't. I don't know. I don't know what Doc does. And the last thing before you guys go, I mean, remember Doc was part of that 0 for 22 and had Tracy McGrady on the team, right? They went when he was in Orlando. He was part of the Clippers when they were ready to make deep runs and he couldn't get them to where they needed to go. He was part of that Philadelphia team where you had a great Embiid and you just had nothing offensively that you did differently and you were so predictable. Like, that's just who Doc is. So to think he's going to come in and fix Milwaukee, I think they really far-fetched with this one.
I have a question for you though, Marv. Do you have to be a great X's and O's guy to be a great coach? Phil Jackson wasn't a great X's and O's guy. He didn't. Tex Winters ran the triangle for Chicago. Well, they had Michael, but Tex Winters ran it. So I don't know if you have to be a great X's and O's guy to be a great coach. I just think that Milwaukee defensively is in trouble. I just think Damian Lillard has never played with a great player, Mar. He never played with a great player his whole career. Never. So he has to learn to it's on Lillard to learn how to play with Giannis, not Giannis to learn how to play with Lillard. That's one of the problems I see. He has to get better defensively because you gave up a lot. So, but do you have to be a great X? And I'm going to defer to you. Do you have to be a great X's and O guy to be a great coach? I don't think so. But what are your opinions?
More than any other sport in the NBA, and I'm taking this from guys who have coached and that I know personally. More than in any other sport, you have to be good in timeouts. You have to be good at halftime, especially when you get into playoff series where there's 7 games and tendencies are broken, right? You've got to be able to adjust on the fly. Who's the best at it in the NBA right now? Probably Spoelstra. Like, you can't tell me that squad that he took to the NBA Finals last year wasn't because of how good they were from a coaching staff perspective.
He added value to that team.
It matter. It doesn't matter as much during the regular season, Lee. I'm gonna give you that. But when you get to playoff, the reason Doc has had so many downfalls is because his inability to make adjustments in game. That is the biggest thing in the NBA when it comes to taking away what you do well and then having secondary options to be able to kind of counter what people are taking away from you. And he's always struggled with that. And you see it with every team. Teams that had a lot of talent that he struggled with because you take away what you do well. Now what are you going to do? And that's where I think X's and O's play a big part, especially in the NBA game, because you have series where people take things away from you in a 7-game series.
Steve Kerr comes to mind as well, Marv. Not a great X's and O guy, but Chris, I'll let you jump in here. Your opinions on Doc Rivers and the Milwaukee Bucks.
Well, I'm kind of going to expand on what Marv's saying about the playoffs. We just got through talking about Dak having great seasons and not being successful in the playoffs. So let's look at Doc here a little bit. In the history of the NBA, there have been 13 blown 3-1 series. Three of those belong to Rivers. Also, he's 17-33 with a chance to actually clinch a playoff series. That's 34%, which is the lowest in the history of the NBA.
Yep.
And Marv, you made a good point. You can't believe how long he's lived off winning that one championship in Boston. Because if you look at the other teams he's been coaching, most of them have failed to even get past the second round.
Yeah.
So I think you talk about X's and O's, but I don't know if it was you, Lee, or Marv, which one you said, the ability to make adjustments. And I think you look at those blown series, did not make adjustments to win. And I think that's a problem. They wanted to bring in a big name there. Doc Rivers brings that. But he's not – to me, I was a little perplexed when I heard about it. But then again, I thought, well, it's Doc Rivers. He's coached a lot around. But when you really dig into the numbers in the playoffs, it's staggering. And, he's had some – you mentioned it too. He's had some good players. He had a good Clippers team. At Philly, he couldn't do much. He just hasn't been able to get to where he got in Boston. Was that a fluke? No, I mean, he had a good team there. But if you're 34% of trying to clinch a playoff series – and the worst in the history of the NBA, that's pretty bad. So I know the players are saying they're excited about having him, which they're going to say even if they aren't. But I'm sure they are excited to have him. But as you said, Lee, they stumbled some. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can put it together with them. And it is tough to, because you think about it, a lot of times you fire a coach and, during the season, you might just promote an assistant that's there, but you brought in a whole new person who's that head coach now and has a different game plan. So be interesting to see if he can get over that hump this year with his team.
And one more point, Lee, before you go, because I know you want to add something. And remember, Milwaukee's in the bottom half of the league with bench production. Their bench is terrible. Okay, so they're star heavy, and you have one star who doesn't want to play defense. He's just not good defensively. And second of all, remember this: Doc has never been good at developing talent. And I can kind of take you to his last job in Philly, right?
I can agree with that.
Yeah, and watch and look at what some of these guys are doing right now under Nick Nurse as compared to where they were with Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers is star driven. He rides his stars, but Philly had a lot of nice little pieces on the bench that could have been utilized. You see them being utilized this year. Maxey was going to be good regardless because he's talented. But there's other guys on that team that have really stepped up. The Paul Reed guy giving really, really great minutes.
He's a nice player, Mark. He's a nice player. He's a nice player.
Sat in Doc's doghouse the whole time that he was there for whatever reason. We don't know. But he's never been good at developing young talent. That goes throughout his history. So I think Milwaukee is, I think they may get out of the first round. That's my prediction for them. And that's about it.
Yeah. So, Bob, quick, are you a proponent they should have kept Adrian Griffin?
I am. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, you did read about all of the things that were going on in the organization under Adrian Griffin. So you think that was a recipe because he was clashing with everybody, assistant coaches, players, and everything. So you think they should have kept him as the coach?
He old school, man. He came up. He came up under some old school type coaches, and I get it. He rubbed some feathers and did some things that people didn't like, and then they wanted to stand on these analytics. But if you want to use analytics, you can use analytics against Doc Rivers as well. Like, so it didn't really vibe with me. And Giannis better be careful. He's getting a reputation as being a coach killer. So let's not act like but let's not act like Budenholzer didn't get booted because of Giannis. Like, come on, man. Let's not act like Adrian Griffin, like Giannis was just so surprised that all of a sudden he was no longer his coach. Come on, Giannis, stop. Like, be careful.
Coach Magic Johnson was a coach killer. I mean, come on, man. Look, Giannis is top 5, probably top 3 of the best players in the league. He has that right to do that if his coach is not doing the things that he feels that he should be doing. Adrian Griffin, he and Damian Lillard clashed. He clashed with assistant coaches. He clashed with Bobby Portis, almost getting in fights in locker rooms. That was issues there. They needed a more experienced coach. I think they hired Griffin not knowing that they were going to get Damian Lillard, right? They did that. He was hired before they. So once they got Lillard, now you have these personalities that he may not have been ready yet, Marv, to coach these personalities that were on the team. So Doc Rivers, by the way, been to the finals twice. Now, let's give him some love. He did take the team back to the finals in 2010, so he has appeared in the finals twice. I'll end with this. Players win championships. I don't think Steve Kerr is a great coach at all. I really don't. I don't think he's great X's and O's. I don't see him drawing up elaborate plays. I don't see the Golden State Warriors doing anything that resembles a great coach or leader. I think they got Steph Curry. I think they had Draymond and they had KD, and those are his championships. And they got the greatest shooter of all time. That's what I think. Players win championships. Your point about the bench, very spot on, Mar. But defensive intensity is going to be their downfall one way or the other. They have 30 games, roughly, 35 games to get themselves together and mesh. And to your point, I'll give you this on this. I don't agree with the coach killer, Giannis, but I do agree that, Giannis, you have to drive this bus. Damian Lillard, he has to adjust to Giannis. Giannis is the alpha dog there. And as Giannis goes, they win. And to your point, you got to step up and make free throws. And we know you're not a great free throw shooter, but you got to step up and make free throws. So they have enough time to turn it around, I think. And let me say this, Mar. I don't see great teams in the East. I don't see great teams. People think Boston is great. Boston has underachieved every year. They've underachieved every year. They lost to the Lakers the other night. Lakers didn't have LeBron or Anthony Davis. You're supposed to beat them. You're supposed to beat them by 25, 30 points. They didn't do it. They're
That's why the Lakers won.
Yeah, well, they're an achieving team, and so I don't. Philly, Philly. Hey, the meniscus tear, Marv. You'll know better than I do. The meniscus tear is going to bother Embiid all for the rest of this year.
Yeah.
They're going to try to rest it. We don't know the degree of the injury, but that's going to bother him. So the Knicks playing great ball. Randall is out. I love Brunson. Shame on people who said Brunson can't lead the team, because that's not the case. So I'll end it there. I want to get your thoughts on this, though, Marv. I'm going to come back to you. The NBA rule that the players have to play 65 games, 20 minutes in the game, is that a fair rule? Is that something that we need in the NBA at this time?
No. I think it's trash, and I think it all comes back to the TV deal, right? It's this new TV deal coming into play, and they want the stars to play, and I get it from that standpoint, but it's not going to really affect the MVP race all that much, because I think there's been one MVP in NBA history that played less than 65 games that won an MVP, and I think that was Bill Walton back in the 70s at some point, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I think. So I'm not really worried about it from an MVP standpoint, but the All-NBA part is where it starts to get dicey, right? You got guys who's contractually, making their Halliburton from Indiana, like making their money is tied to all NBA selections, all NBA first team, second team, all in defensive selections, and you're telling me that if Halliburton plays under 60 games, or Embiid plays under 60 games, and maybe he plays between 40 to 60 games, that's not enough for us to know that he's all NBA? Of course it is. If he played under 40 games, they wouldn't even be in consideration anyway. So right. I don't really understand where the rule is coming from. I think it's going to hurt guys more than it's going to help. And it's also going to force some guys to play injured that probably shouldn't be playing. I get it. I know people hate the load management word, but the game has changed. The culture of the NBA has changed. It is not the same. It's not physical like it used to be. The game is free flowing now. Players are different. The way that we watch the game is different. So it's all changed. So I don't care about it from an MVP standpoint, because it's not going to happen anyway. But this all NBA and guys losing their money because they don't play a certain amount of games, I think you may see injuries come on the uptake. Just like Halliburton with his hamstring right now, he tried to push it and go. He couldn't go. And it could end up affecting the product later down the line. So I think it's kind of silly, to be quite honest, the rule. But, it's their league. They can do what they want.
Yeah. Chris, Joel Embiid is averaging 35 points a game, 12 rebounds. If he misses 18 games, he can't be MVP. What are your thoughts?
I don't like the rule at all. And let me jump back to something Marv just said about the all NBA teams. If you look at, I believe it was last year's second team, I think there was 4 guys on that team, 3 or 4 guys, either 3 that were under what this 65 threshold is going to be. I think even LeBron was only at 58 games. So, you look at that. When I look at it as a money thing for the NBA, they want to see these stars playing on TV. They want to increase their revenue, and they don't like it. I mean, I remember I went to a Wizards game to see Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan didn't play that night. But that's where I think it's coming from. I don't think it affects. I agree with Marv. I don't need 70 games to know if a guy's the MVP. And some of these guys, as they get older, they're pacing themselves. I know Kobe was a guy who'd go out there, no matter what. I look at a LeBron. I think one of the things that I've been hearing about him and reading about him lately is, he's learning how to pace himself a little bit more as he gets older so he can get through the season. I don't like the rule at all. I do think in my opinion, it's a money thing for them, and I don't think you should rate. No, I mean, if a guy plays 20 games, I mean, that's different.
Right.
That means you got something really going on. But the thing is, a lot of writers, when I research this topic, a lot of writers are saying it's here to stay. Like the NBA is not going to budge on it. So, I mean, they're going to have to learn to be within it. But I think Marv made another good point. It's going to hurt down the road. It's going to hurt the product. And I think that's where the game suffers right there.
Yeah, two things, and I don't want to belabor this. You both of you said it. Load management, they're trying to take that out of the game. They want, and the money that's driven by the contracts with the TV deals that they're doing. That's what it is. The final thing I'll say is this: the NBA will never be a regular season league. It'll never be that. The Christmas Day games are great. We're at home. We watch them. The in-season tournament, that's never going to be the thing in the NBA. The NBA is all about the playoffs, right? And so this is just a poo-poo little thing to appease the networks. So that's all I'll say about that, and we'll keep it moving because I want to get to this.
Let me add
topic.
one more thing. One more thing, Chris. You brought up a really interesting point, Chris, about the media, right? And the media, journalists, beat writers, those are the guys who have votes for all NBA, right? And that's driven the NBA for a long time, having those votes, and they're basically determining players' contracts. But no media beat writer, even when Stephen A. Smith was a beat writer, nobody was putting all NBA guy on the ballot if he played under 40 games anyway. So they weren't even in discussion to be all NBA. So I don't quite understand why this rule needed to come into play, because they weren't going to be on the ballot anyway. But Lee, I agree with you. This is all about the TV deal, building revenue, all the streaming platforms. Now that's what this is all about. But I still think, like you said, I think it's awful.
To quote our last topic, must be the money. That's what it is with the NBA. And let's go to our last topic for the day. And this is a great one. The buzz last year was on Colorado and Deion Sanders and all that show out in Colorado. They're moving to the Big 12. My question to you guys is, will Colorado make the college football playoffs? And again, we have comments. Please comment on any of our topics. We love to get comments from our audience about any of the things we've talked about. Please chime in. But Chris, I'm going to come to you first. You're a Cincinnati grad, Big 12 guy. Will Colorado make the college football playoffs this year as they move to the Big 12?
Well, first off, they certainly have a much better opportunity with the new format, so we can put that out there. But we were talking, people didn't hear this, but we were talking pre-show. I think Marv made you can't have all pretty players. So I think the Big 12 is a very physical league. Cincinnati learned that quickly in their first year. It's tough to run on these guys. If you look at their schedule, they have an opportunity, but I think there was so much hype last year. I mean, they won, they came out, started winning, and then as people got to study them and study their film, they couldn't win the games, and then they started I think they got blown out a couple games. They have an opportunity. It's just, what does Deion do? I know I read a thing yesterday about him and saying, hey, I'm here, get in the portal. He's trying to bring guys in. He's made some coaching changes. But I think, we talk about the must be the money. We joke about that. And he's very glitzy, social media every single day out there trying to promote his program. But I'm telling you, the Big 12 is tough. He has an opportunity, but they have to be more consistent. And I think he's got a quarterback, in his son. I just think if he can build some things with the line to protect him. If you looked at a lot of those games where he was running all over the place, trying to find his receivers. But does he have an opportunity? Sure. I mean, everybody does. The Big 12, if they have some good wins, especially at home, they could be right up there in the Big 12 and have an opportunity to be one of those teams to go in. But they have to improve. The hype is over, in my opinion. It's time. They sold out every game, but they have to win football games now. He did it at Jackson State. He can certainly do it at Colorado. People want to play for him. We joke that Goldberg's son just signed with him. He gets these kids to come there, but they've got to win. And what I don't want to see happen, guys, is every year there's coaching changes on his staff. He had this staff come in, and then he lets one or two go, some left. They've got to have consistency in Colorado to get where they need to be.
All right. Marv, what are your thoughts? I mean, I know you and I had some spirited conversations about Colorado football, so I'm very interested in what you have to say about Coach Prime and the Buffaloes. What do you think about it? Will they make the college football playoffs next year?
Will they make it? I think they have a really good shot. If I'm being just honest, I think that they have a really good shot at making the playoffs. But it's going to boil down to a couple things, and I think Chris, you brought up a good point. Like, I felt like Deion had an opportunity over this offseason to create some continuity within his program, right? keep some guys. You let Charles Kelly go. Defensively, they weren't that good, but they just didn't have much. They didn't have much. I mean, they were terrible up front. They were terrible, in the middle of the field. Travis Hunter is Travis Hunter. He's a difference maker no matter where he would play, right? So he's fine. But I wanted to see a little more continuity. He brought in Warren Sapp. I think he's going to be coaching for him this year. I mean, it looks great, but I don't know how good of a coach Warren Sapp is. We don't know. Do we really know how good of a coach Dion is? We know Dion is a great salesman. We know Dion is who he is. But if we're being honest about football, there was some games last year that they lost that were head scratchers. And it came down to some of the decisions that he made. In particular, they could have easily lost Colorado State in some of the decisions that he was making down the stretch. There's a lot of games where you scratched your head like, all right, Dion, come on, man. So the schedule sets up for them to make it. So I'm looking here. They got Utah at home. They got Oklahoma State at home. They got Cincinnati at home. They got Kansas State at home. Like they got Baylor at home. So the schedule sets up for them to be able to have an opportunity. So if they don't make it this year, it's now going to start coming into, especially with the new format, Chris, you're right. It'll now start to be, is he a program builder? Is he a good enough coach? Because he's going to have to coach this year because now you got a year under your belt. Now you got film on how your program really operates. You're bringing in a new offensive coordinator, all those kind of things. Now year 2 is Deion Sanders a coach? Not just a salesman. And I'm interested to see the first game of the year they got, North Dakota State. I know it's an FCS school, but they've been a powerhouse, and it'll be interesting. They'll be hyped to play the game. It'll be interesting to see Colorado against a team that they should beat. I mean, theoretically, they should beat this team, but it'll be interesting to see what the product looks like. You got a lot of flash. His son is really good. We talked about this last year. I really think his son is poised. I think his accuracy is second to none. I think he's a really good quarterback. Travis Hunter is Travis Hunter. He's got some great skill players, but what have we done to shore up the areas that really affected them last year? Offensive, defensive line, and their ability to actually, handle a game, like have control of a football game. That's what we saw them struggle with last year. So the verdict is, it's out now. We're going to see if Deion is a real coach this year, and that's what I'm most interested to see.
How many wins, Mark? How many wins? Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, yeah, Mark, that's my point I was trying to make. You kind of made it for me. Their schedule sets it up. If they can win those home games in the Big 12 and then knock off some on the road, because it's very hard to play on the road with the Big 12, then they have a great shot at doing it. Because I love the new format. Because we can have this conversation now about a team that wouldn't be in the top 4 necessarily. But it's a great point. If they win at home, they're going to be okay. What's that?
How many wins do you expect Colorado to win next year? How many games?
Say 8, 9.
8, 9. Marv, what do you think?
I'm gonna go 9-3. Because listen, North Dakota State, first game, they should win. Nebraska, they beat last year 36-14, I think it was. They should win. Then they got at Colorado State. Could have lost that game last year, but I suspected they'll beat Colorado State. Then they got Baylor at home. We'll see. Aranda in his 5th year, he got a lot to prove. Baylor going to have a lot to prove. Then they go to UCF with Gus Malzahn. I don't think they win that game. Gus got him a quarterback. Come back home with Kansas State with that stretch. So I'm going to go 9-3 with them. And 9-3 might be good enough, depending on how some other things play out. Might be good enough to get in the playoff out of the Big 12. It could be, depending on where some of these other teams, kind of fizzle out at the end. But we'll see. But I'm going 9-3 for them.
Neither one of you covered all of the quality transfers that he look. Colorado lost 8 games last year, and people said it was a disappointment because of the hype. I thought it was a great first year under Deion Sanders. They lost 6 games by 7 points or less. 6 games by 7 points or less. Last year, they got blown out by an average of 30-something points a game the previous year. So the notion that he's not a coach, I just disagree with. I'll say this. You remade your entire offensive line. You look at the 2 guards that they brought in. One is 320 pounds. The other is 330. They're getting bigger up the middle to protect Shador. They on the outside, they got Jordan Seaton coming in. They'll have a totally new offensive line, and Shador Sanders is that guy. He is that guy. He will be up for the Heisman Trophy next year. And to have that with the receivers that they have, I think the sky's the limit for Colorado defensively. Again, remade the team. And they're not bringing in players from Jackson State, from lower tier schools. They're bringing in big-time talent. And they're bringing in talent with an edge. The guy that they got, the BJ Green guy that just got from Arizona State, all Pac-10 performer. And we cannot downplay the conference that they played in last year. The Pac-12 was one of the best conferences, could have been considered the best conference in college football last year. So to go 4-8 is not a bad thing. And they had some games that they should have won. Stanford game they should have won. That's a 5th win. They played Arizona very close at home. So they're poised. They're poised into what you guys said, the format sets up. So y'all didn't answer the question. Y'all didn't say yes or no. Y'all sort of skated around the backside of it. You say no, Chris? You say yes or no?
No.
I'm going to say right now. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no.
I'm going to say
to me. I know you're going to say yes. It's just one of those things you don't know. You don't know how. I may change my mind after first 3 games, but right now I say no. I want to see what they've done. And to your point, Lee, I want to see the rebuilding that they've done and if they can stop people.
I think they've covered up. I think they have players at every position that they were void in last year, and now they've also built depth in those positions, because that was one of the things that hurt them last year, the depth on the team. And Marv, you always do this, so I expect you to do. You threw out Charles Kelly. Charles Kelly was trash last year. Let's be honest. His defense stunk. The way his scheme stunk. The defense stunk. So he was an Alabama guy. We should have left him in Tuscaloosa. He stunk. So that's what I say. Charles Kelly's not good.
Before we go, we're gonna be diplomatic about this. Let me ask you guys this: how this plays out? It's a 12-team playoff, right? We're taking the conference winners of the power. We got Big 12 gonna have one, ACC gonna have one, Big 10, SEC. That's 4, right? The conference champion automatically is gonna get a bid. So Big 10 outside of that conference champion, they're gonna get 2 or 3 others, right? SEC gonna get 3 or 4 others, right? So what do we got there? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's about 10 teams already that we know are going to be, in the mix. So it really is only going to leave about 2 spots open at the end of the day. You're going to have about 2 spots open for maybe a straggler in the Big 12 or the Big 10 or maybe the SEC or so. I forgot about the ACC, maybe Clemson or Florida State,
5
whoever.
plus 7. It's 5 plus 7 next year.
5 plus 7. So be easy. And I think they're going to have to win some games that they probably not supposed to win to even get into that mix, because they're not going to win the Big 12.
I think they're going to win the Big 12.
Oh, man.
I think
okay.
Who's going to win the Big 12?
We'll have this conversation a little bit later on.
Yeah, I think they're going to win the Big 12. I think the Big 12 is easily set up for them to win. I really do. I don't think anybody will have the firepower offensively that Colorado's bringing back. The Miller kid that's coming in, the transfer Terrell that's coming in, the players they brought back offensive. They just needed an offensive line to protect Shador Sanders, and they have that. I think they'll win the Big 12. But to your point, that large bids, of course, the SEC, they're going to try to get the champion plus 2 or 3 teams. I think they might get 3 teams of the at-large team.
They'll get 3. They'll get 3.
But you win 10 games next year and you're Colorado, you're in the playoffs, and I think you'll win the Big 12 to get there. But 10 wins will get you an at-large bid as well. So, and I don't see the Big 12 schedule, the teams that are going to be in there, as very tough teams to beat.
So then you might be kind of contradicting your point there, because if you think 10 wins will get you an at-large bid, but if you look at their schedule in the Big 12, it's not impressive. Then if that's kind of if that's what you're standing on, the fact that so what they have to do is win the Big 12, because if they don't win the Big 12, they won't get an at-large bid.
I think they will, but 10 wins, 10 wins. I mean, you look at, do you take a 10-2 Colorado team or 8-4 SEC team? 4 losses are not going to get you in the playoffs. You're going to have to be at least 10-2, 9-3 from the SEC to get in the playoffs.
Well, you know the answer to that.
I
mean, television networks, they would lobby for Colorado. I mean, it brings more revenue, more money to have Deion in there at 10-2. I mean, absolutely.
They won Colorado. The losses on their coaching staff were not big losses at all. I don't. Their coaching staff. He wants pro coaches. I think he needs pro coaches for the type of talent that he's bringing in. You know, the Sean Lewis guy. His offensive scheme was terrible. I mean, it was absolutely terrible last year. They couldn't run the football at all. It was solely on Shakur, and they couldn't protect. Never put a tight end in to help Chip. None of that stuff. So he needed to be gone. Charles Kelly needed to be gone. So I like what they're doing. I look for Deion and the boys to get there and win the Big 12. Final thoughts, Mar. Final thoughts on anything we discussed today.
No, I think we had a nice heated and good debate today. I want to see the space. You know what? Let me take that back. I want to look at Milwaukee Bucks front office, right? Because I don't think Milwaukee's going very far, okay? And you only have a certain window with Giannis. So let's see how this front office is able to pivot after this year to see what they can do to still make them a championship contender while Giannis is still in his prime. That's going to be an important space for me to watch that front office in Milwaukee.
Yeah. Thank you for rolling with us, Ms. Keaton. We really appreciate you. Keep rolling with us and tell a friend. Really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Chris, your closing thoughts.
No, I thought it was a great conversation. Loved watching you two go back and forth about Dak. I just had to sit back here and enjoy it. But that's why we're here every week. But that was good. Now, I'm curious to see where Dallas goes next year. I'm already thinking about that. But, we got a doubleheader today, guys. Busy Saturday. So
let's go.
I was able to jump on.
Yeah. My final thought is this. I look for Memphis to rebound. Big game against Wichita State at home today. We're going to chime into that. That's a nationally televised game. Let's see where they go. Let's see where Penny Hardaway, the coach, is going to go today. They have to win today. They have to reset their tone, have to reset their season. Let's see if he can change these guys' attitudes, shorten the bench, and get a win today at home. They need it. So, hey, guys, this is how we do it every week. We thank you for tuning in. Please tell a friend about us, comment us, like us, subscribe. I'm Lee Jones. He's Marvin Orange. That's Chris Sawyer. We really appreciate y'all. We'll see you next week on After the Buzzers. Thank you. Thanks for watching.